Hi, I'm Alex Mitchell and I'm the archivist here at the library, and I'm here today to tell you about some stories from the archives, and I really want to inspire you to come and use the archives and special collections in your studies. So one of the first stories I'm going to tell you from the archives is about Walter Greenwood. So Walter Greenwood was Salford-born lad in the 1900s, and he became an overnight success for the book that he wrote called Love on the Dole. He was a working class boy, grew up just down the road in an area that was called Hankey Park, where Salford Shopping City is now. So Walter is there, he's working in the 1930s, he gets made redundant, he's got a lot of spare time on his hands, and he writes this novel about what it's like to live in Salford on the Dole. And it's an overnight success, and he becomes really famous. And then he goes on to have this really glamorous lifestyle where he goes and marries an American actress over in the States. Sadly, it ends in divorce, and he actually gets sued because he dumps his previous fiancée to go and marry this American actress. But essentially, we have his archive that tells the story of his life, including news cuttings that kind of charts this glamorous lifestyle that he has, and also photos of his early life in Salford, living above his dad's barber shop. So Walter Greenwood, although he leaves Salford, it's always close to him in his heart. And in the 1970s, he sold his archive, his personal archive, to the university, and that's why we have it here now. So that includes, as I said, news cuttings and lots of letters that were written to him, fan mail, really, fan mail from the 20th century, photos, and some of his manuscript books as well. The next story I want to tell you from the archives is really kind of close to our history as an institution. So we were founded, or we trace our history back to the 1890s when the Peel building opened as the Royal Technical Institute. And at that time, there was lots of young people from Salford that came here to study in lots of kind of engineering type disciplines. So in the collection, we have record cards for students that came here from the early 20th century, and including record cards for students that actually got signed up to go and fight in the First World War. Now, some of them returned, but sadly, some of them didn't. And on their cards, it will say like they were killed in action. So we know that they unfortunately lost their lives during the war. And it's really important that we have these cards because, this is the way that we remember them, and we can share their story so that they are remembered in the future. So the third story I want to tell you comes from one of our oldest sets of material here in the archive, and it's from the Duke of Bridgewater archive. So the Duke of Bridgewater builds the Bridgewater Canal that runs through Salford and Manchester outside of the city. And it was built to transport coal so that he could make money from his coal mines in Salford. But what's actually really interesting about this collection the fact that it captures normal kind of working class people that would be otherwise lost to the record. So one of the kind of key items that we have is a book of payments to his labourers and gardeners and quarrymen that he employed. Now, if we didn't have this book, actually the names of these people would be lost because this was pre-census. So we've got all of these names of these 18th century men and sometimes women who were in his employment, and it tells us how much they got paid. In that collection, we also have a petition from some of his miners who were disgruntled about how much they were being paid and they couldn't afford to buy bread. And if we didn't have this sort of material, then we wouldn't be able to capture the stories of the lives of normal people and how they lived and the challenges they experienced. So the fourth story I want to tell you is about one called Brenda Yates. And Brenda Yates is important because she was the first head of physics at the university in the mid-1960s. And that's important because physics as a subject area was just dominated by men. So she was a real pioneer and really sort of paved the way for other women to take on those senior leadership roles. So the campus itself has got loads of stories behind the doors in the buildings. One of the kind of iconic buildings that's no longer there was the chemistry tower. that sat between Peel Building and the Art Gallery. And did you know that there was a UFO that landed at the university in the 1970s? Well, if you want to find out more about that, you should check out the student union newspapers that we've got online, because they contain such a rich amount of stories that you could get inspiration from. And did you know that Maxwell was a gig venue in the 1970s to the 1990s? You can find out more about that and to see some items from the archive on our Salford Digital Archive. So I really hope this has inspired you to check out the archives, to use it in your studies. And if you want to find out more, you can contact me and arrange a visit to come to the archive to see material. And you can also check out our digital collections online.